Welcome back. As we said, we are going to focus on COP27, and this is going to be the case in the coming 2 weeks, as I said. But today, I'm going to start from scratch. Climate change. The Industrial Revolution made a lot to humanity at large, but also there were some negative repercussions in a way that now there is a global crisis, a global issue named climate change. Well, to shed more light on this and to continue with what's going on, particularly here in Egypt and in Africa, and our role to handle this, we are very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio my dear guest, Dr. Mostafa Naggary, the chairperson of the Agriculture and Irrigation Business Committee in the Egyptian Business Association. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you.
And as I said, let's make it simple for our viewers and to start from scratch. Climate change. Why already we are suffering from climate change? And why all these repercussions have been accumulating a year after the other to reach this stage, with all the floods, with all the melting ice, with even threats that the delta cities or the low-level cities are going to disappear from Earth. Let's start and let's elaborate in a simple way to our viewers.
Thank you, Nermeen, for choosing this time for having this interview. The whole world maybe will be following the climate summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is knocking the door. As you mentioned, about 200 leaders of the whole world are going to join, and a lot of institutions and volunteers, as you say, because the name or the meaning of climate change is really affecting the whole world. Mm-hmm. Of course, if we talk about Egypt, we mentioned before that by 2050, Egypt population will be 192 million inhabitants, and we should accelerate our activities and our homework and our job to increase our food production. At the time being, we are importing between 65 to 70% of our food, but on the other side, we have seen lately the new projects which His Excellency President Sisi is always launching and is always inviting investors to participate, which the greenhouse mega project and the Egypt Future and the new Toshka al-Khair. All of them is trying to increase the land, and this was not coming by
chance. It was not easy at all.
Because of the climate change. Yeah. If you talked about the reason or the impact of the Industrial Revolution in the developed countries by 50s and up till maybe today, and this have caused a lot of carbon emissions, mm-hmm. which have increased the average temperature of the global. Mm-hmm. So we expect by 2050, and this is a studies, that the average temperature will increase between 2 to 3 centigrades.
Mm-hmm. And this is catastrophic.
It is catastrophic.
And this is something which we should work on, and
yes.
We here,
yes.
I mean the whole world.
Okay. Let me tell you that there will be a compressive factors affecting the agriculture, mm-hmm. according to this increase of temperature. If we look to the three major factors will be affected. So number one is the land, the agri-land. Mm-hmm. According to the high temperature, some lands will be affected by desertification.
Desert, unfortunately.
Okay. And on the other side, as you mentioned also, that melting ice in both North and South polars are going to increase the level of the sea water, and it will submerge the lowlands. Mm-hmm. And Egypt is one of the countries is attacked, will be attacked, and we expect parts of the northeast delta will be affected by that. So you will lose some lands by submerging seawater, and also you will be affected by desertification.
So number 3?
So this is number 1, is the land.
Okay.
Number 2 is the water. As you know, with high temperatures, you will need to consume more water. And as we all know, that the total resource of water for Egypt in general is 81.5 billion cubic meters. 55.5 is coming from the Nile, and about 4.5 is coming from also traditional resources, which is the underground water and rains.
Water.
And then it comes at the untraditional resources, which is the recycling of the water. And according to the high temperature, it is expected to have more consumption of water, so you will need more water for irrigation. The population will be high, so the usage of the house or the home usage of water will be higher, and according to that you are in a problem also for the lack of water. The third is the productivity of the plants. Also, according to the statistics and the studies and researches, that each 1.5 increase centigrade increase in the heat will decrease the productivity of the normal types and seeds of wheat, rice, corn.
Strategic food crops.
Yeah, it is strategic food crops. It's going to affect the decrease between 14 to 18% of the productivity of the acre. More catastrophic is the soya bean. It will be decreased by 28%. And if you come to 3 centigrade increase in the heat, they will decrease more about 30% than these levels. So according to that, it will be a big problem in the productivity of the food, and we are all talking about the food security.
Sure.
Okay, that's why I'm sure that this summit, the climate summit, will be a crystal clear talking about the damages which the developed country have caused to developing countries,
the so-called developing
especially
countries,
in Africa. Yeah.
This is exactly what I wanted to continue with, because I was really pleased when I knew that some websites named this COP27 as Africa COP.
Yeah.
A study by the Carbon Brief News Service said last week that Africa alone, extreme weather events have killed at least 4,000 people and displaced 19 million so far only in the year 2022.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we are speaking about the continent which participated the least in this
in the emissions,
climate
in the
change
carbon
issue,
in the carbon
and in the
emissions.
we are still the source of oxygen,
Yes,
the source
correct.
of natural resources.
Yeah.
Why we do bear the heaviest burden.
Correct.
How do you see this as a topic of discussion which is going to be there on the agenda of the COP27?
That's why I'm really happy that most of the leaders of the developed countries are going to join. And I think that nobody can live separately in this world. As we say, we are in a small village, and the supply and demand chain is going to change, and everybody understands this according to the climate change. So everybody have to cooperate together, and everybody have to look for Africa as it is really will be harmed a lot, and you have to survive, because Africa is the market. I mean, at the end, is the market at the end. But thanks God, everybody is talking also about the green agreement, which everybody is trying. In Europe especially, they are trying to come to zero carbon by 2050. I'm not sure if they are going to catch according to the crisis nowadays, because it's costing too much. It needs to accelerate more. But at the end, everybody is looking for a zero carbon environment.
And this is
And
for the sake of humanity,
yes,
not for the sake of a certain,
yes, that's why.
A certain people or certain area.
Yeah.
Ugandan campaigner Vanessa Nakate said historically, Africa is responsible for less than 4% of global emissions, but Africans are suffering some of the most brutal impacts of climate crisis. As you've kindly mentioned, sir, this COP27, this summit is going to be very transparent and filled with statistics. And I really like to know, or to see even the facial expressions of all those leaders of the developed countries who are going to be faced with such statistics.
Yes.
And what they should do to compensate, if we are going to speak about projects or about businesses which should take place on the grounds of the African continent, finance there, it's going, or it should be their side of the coin.
Technology is the key word for the coming years. And last week, the Egyptian Exporter Association, Explink, have signed a memorandum of understanding with one of the leading European companies in the smart farming, which is depending on smart solutions to increase the productivity and also to decrease the inputs of the fertilizers and pesticides and the water as well. And thanks God that due to their studies and their also pilot projects they did in 6 European countries, they succeeded to increase the productivity from 20 to 22% and to decrease water input or water discharge per acre, and the pesticides and the fertilizers also for a percentage between 15 to 20%. So this technology is coming from the developed countries, and this is the key word. Everybody have to cooperate. Africa have water, have sun, have the land, and
to echo what you have
Europe
said, sir,
is
and
having
to build
the technology.
on what took place in Glasgow last year.
Yeah.
Rich governments rejected a call for a financial mechanism to address losses and damages at last year's climate talks in Glasgow. And instead, negotiators agreed to start what they called a dialogue on financial compensation. Do we have the luxury just to continue with wasting time on negotiations, or deals should be signed even during the conference, because unfortunately the whole world is racing against time?
We are waiting for the summit, but I am sure that Egypt is going to play a big role on behalf of Africa. Egypt is having this base to talk about the African continent. You know, Egypt is one of the old countries which have been planting food and distributing and exporting food for most of the countries.
We were the basket of seeds and grains.
We have really a good base for the research centers. Research centers will be also another key word. New types of seeds which will which can comply with the increase of the heat and can need less water and can increase the productivity. Everybody is working in that. You remember that we talked about Egypt have joined the union of the producers of the seedless in the whole world, which is called the UPOF. And this will allow new types of seeds and seedlings to come to Egypt and for sure it will increase the productivity.
Yep.
So that's why I always say that what President Sisi is doing is really a great job, and we are all inviting all investors from everywhere to come and to try to benefit from that. We have a flat soil. You will not have to pay high cost for the energy as you have. Many countries are having mountains. Some countries are having more than 90% of the geographic plan is mountains. But thanks God that Egypt we have a flat land and we have the sun. It only needs more technology to try to benefit from the water. And as we say, we are always in agriculture calculating the value of each cubic meter and the value of each cubic square meter in land.
Amen to that. The African Development Bank is set to join global leaders, including from Africa, at the 2022 UN Climate Change Conference to amplify Africa's concerns and priorities on climate change. And to add to this bank, also the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the European Investment Bank, will also participate with a vision to finance climate action.
Yeah.
This is to say that we do also have banks, financial institutions, international funds, and all those are going to be there side by side with the scientists, with the researchers, or those who came with the studies, with world leaders. So I think everything is going to be ready for signing deals, for implementing practically on the ground what should be done for the sake of humanity, as I said before. How do you see those statements which were released by those international banks, speaking about their keenness to come, to participate, to share, and it seems that they do have an agenda which is going to be shown in the coming few days?
Everybody who is in the agriculture field knows by heart that the agriculture is a long-term investment. It needs a long time for arranging the land and for planting until you get the crop. It's not a fast investment as other sectors, but it needs patience, it needs knowledge, research, and the finance. So all the institutions you have mentioned are really, they are participating in the summit, and they are going to offer initiative for investors and for countries as well to try to increase the area planted. And as here we have in Egypt, you have the Agriculture Bank of Egypt is always offering initiative for the agriculture by low interest rate, which is 5%, which is now we have seen that the Central Bank of Egypt is offering at the moment about 14.5, but for agriculture is the least field in Egypt which is having this such ways of initiative loans, only 5%. I am sure that all the international institutions and banks are able and ready to finance, to try to increase the area planted and the productivity for food, to safeguard all the human, in the coming 20, 30 years.
Great. Sir, after months of preparations and meetings, climate champion Mahmoud Muhyiddin headed to COP27 with full plate, a pipeline of projects compatible with the Paris Agreement and tackling the challenges of adaptation and mitigation has been created following 5 regional roundtables conducted jointly with the UN, the COP27 presidency, and climate champions, as a total of 400 submissions were filtered by the technical teams to around 150 projects, or 10 per region, which will be showcased during the conference.
Correct.
Those were also some of the statements or some of the opportunities, as it's not only going to be about climate change, of course, and about the actions, challenges. It's about creating jobs, it's about more projects, it's about finance, it's about a platform gathering all those side by side. I mean, they're going all to be there.
Challenges are always offering chances and job opportunities and investment opportunities. So I'm sure that the outcome of this summit will be very positive, and it will, I mean, if I talk for Egypt, I do expect really a great cooperation from many countries to participate in this challenge, if we say. But it will create a lot of chances for job. I mean, we see that many companies are now working in the solar energies. I can tell you that many of the Egyptian farms have turned to use the solar energy. It's much more cheaper and it's good for the environment as well. So at the end, we have to know that the emissions is coming from agriculture is also high. And this is according to the usage of the pesticides and the fertilizers. It's causing high emissions as well. Nobody, I mean, maybe have talked about that. That's why the smart farming and the technology, how to plant with decreasing the levels of the pesticides and of the fertilizers is also very important.
But I think,
this
sir,
is technology.
this is very challenging because according to climate change and according to what climate change did to our biological environment, unfortunately, new species of
one of the compressive
of insects and stuff like that.
Correct.
I think this is another issue.
Of
and
course.
There are also we should use new types of pesticides, new types even of fertilizers.
Sure.
So this is another challenge. If you want to elaborate on that.
We are moving to a new world of industry and agriculture and services. And if I talk about the agriculture, okay, of course, severe biological changes will happen. New types of diseases will occur. New types of viruses will occur. And according to that, scientists are all working for these issues, and this will also be presented in the summit. So it's the impact of the climate change is not only affecting one sector. No,
Sure.
it will affect a lot of sectors, and it will also create.
But they are
lot
all
of
interrelated,
job
if I may say
opportunities.
so.
Yes.
They are all related to each other in a way that we
Correct.
cannot speak or manage one side and leave the other. I mean,
course.
we should just have this panoramic view to be able to continue on the right path. True?
Many of the institutions and research centers are working for, I think, 2 or 3 decades about these issues. And that's why we can see now new types of food is getting into the market. I mean, you remember we used to have a specific types of tomatoes. It's not anymore now. We are having new types of tomatoes. We are having new types of strawberries. We are having new types of wheat.
Or at least we do have new types that are available all over the year. I mean, at certain times, we used to have some fruits in winter, for example, or in summer. But now, this is not the case.
It's not the case. The case is that according to the work of the scientists and the research centers, I can tell you that in 1960s, the highest production of wheat in acre all over the world, it was only 1.5 or 1.7 tons only. But thanks God, now you can see that many countries, one of them is Egypt, have reached 3.5 tons
How genetic
per acre.
engineering
different
had
types
this
of seeds.
positive impact on agriculture.
Yes, it's an implementation.
May
of
God
course,
bless
the
the soul of Dr. Ahmed Mostagir. May
Yeah,
God bless his soul.
to
Sir,
all I mean,
and to all our
dear,
scientists,
of
of
course,
course.
scientists. Yeah.
Sir, let us return back, if you permit me, to the statements which were released by Dr. Mahmoud Mohiddin, our climate change champion. The National Initiative for Smart and Green Projects will announce 18 winning projects presented by various governorates, according to this initiative, which was launched recently by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. It was only 2 days ago. The 18 projects include 3 each from 6 categories: women-led projects,
Yes.
youth startups, community development, non-profit projects, small and medium and large projects. Winners were selected from among more than 6,000 submissions, meaning that we are proving,
Yes.
I mean, practically,
Yeah.
that we do think out of the box.
Correct.
We do have youth who are thinking out of the box and working hard to reach and to achieve their goals on the ground. I think all such initiatives and all such activities are going also to be presented in the conference. To what extent do you think that this is really coping with Egypt 2030 agenda, with the sustainability we are working to reach, or we are working for?
As you mentioned that we talked a lot about the SMEs and about the women as well, participation in the process of agriculture. And one of the major problems in Egypt was dividing the area planted due to several, I mean, political reasons in the past. But at the moment, Egypt is setting new programs to try to merge the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, to the small landlords to join together by projects. You have seen in the Delta that there was a new project for improving the irrigation system by using the dripping system and outside the flooding system. So at the moment, the SMEs is a keyword, of course.
Yes, sure.
Women, I mean, women, as we mentioned, is the core of life, even in agriculture, because you know that we have been talking about that women are dealing with food much more softer and clever than the men. And this was, if you go to any pack house for the fruits or vegetables, all of them are women. So the women participation in the agriculture process, and especially, which we say that it is one of the items which will be affected by the climate change. So I have to press on this issue. So in Egypt, we are setting new programs to improve the productivity, and I can tell that most of the scientists are participating in these issues are women as well. So at the end, we are waiting for the outcome of this summit. I'm sure that it will be better after this summit than before. Everybody is going to cooperate, and we are always optimistic for the future of our country. We are a core of the world.
Sure.
We are really inviting everybody to come and invest in Egypt.
Sir, also I would like to speak about an example, cooperation between Germany and Chile as a developed and a developing country, to seek mutual understanding. This was one of the examples, and maybe it's going to be one of the solutions, to have a developed country seeking mutual understanding with a developing one, and as if this win-win situation is going to be for the best interest of both.
Of course.
So can we think or dream that every developed country is going to be responsible for 1 or 2 of the developing ones, and with this cooperation we can reach our goals and achieve them on the ground without harming each other?
Egypt is one of the countries which is having a wide range of, as we say, partnership and agreements with the whole world, either in trade or in agriculture, okay? Also, last week I was inviting one of the biggest European international fairs for food and agriculture products. And they came because they understand a very important point, that the competitiveness in agriculture in Europe is declining a lot, according to the high increase prices of the power and the high increase of the labor cost, and the climate change also is affecting them. It's not only affecting Africa.
Yeah.
So that's why they are coming to set a program of a new investment, and I think by December a sum of about 90 business people from Italy will come to Egypt in several fields, but mainly for the food industry and agriculture, because they know that Egypt, the competitiveness, we are increasing more and more. Don't forget that we are reaching about we reached 5 million tons of exports of fresh products last year, which was good. The point is that at the end we are trying to increase the value of our products and to try to change the map of production. We are maybe having 1.7 million tons of citrus and about 850,000 tons of potatoes, and which is a big sum out of this 5 million, but their cost is cheap. We are always targeting to come to the 5 million tons, but with high value products like grapes, like strawberries, like other types of.
To add to what you're saying, sir, because unfortunately we are running out of time, Egypt will announce its national strategy for green hydrogen production during the COP27. Egypt is capable of producing green hydrogen at the cheapest price worldwide.
Yeah.
How do you see this also as one of the incentives or one of the main factors which is going, inshallah, to attract more investors to come and to invest here in Egypt due to this?
As I don't want to speak too much about the plans which were set, and everybody, you know, we are at the time being facing some people who are just, objecting whatever happening, and they say why we spend this money. But if we look that there was a plan, it's not was established last month or 1 year. No, there was studies starting from 2013, and it was going to several fields. One of that which you are mentioning now. So Egypt is always having really a good base for investment, not only in industry or agriculture. We were in talking with the governor of the central bank about some problems which was affecting the supply chain of the industry, of the economy. We said that this is the supply chain of the economy. How to trade, how to import, you cannot export without import. So there is a lot of talks at the time being, but the challenges are there. It's not going to be finished in one time, but I have to tell to everybody that we are moving. Egypt is moving. And there is a lot of challenges, but also there is a lot of chances.
Great. Well, sir, don't worry that much about the Egyptian people. We learned the lesson, and even with the speaking with the layman in the street, with the very simple citizen, we learned the lesson, and we knew well that Egypt is on the right track, and nothing is going to hinder the Egyptians from going forward on the right path to reach the new republic, Egypt 2030. Our country, very proud to be Egyptian. Well, Dr. Mostafa, I all the time enjoy our discussion.
Thank you, Nimi.
And
Thank you. It's a
inshallah, we
pleasure.
are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our
Sure.
program.
Thank you, Nimi. Thank you so much.
Well, let's go to my dear colleague and friend, Manal Ibiari, as she is going to tell us more about the most important economic events which took place in the past 7 days. By this, we come to the end of our episode of Money Means Business just for today. Stay tuned only on Mal TV International always for more. With all my love, this was Nirmeen Abdurrahman.